Hello and welcome to episode 258 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. My good friend and co-host Sarah Says will be back on the show today to talk about all of the performers who will be taking part in the Disney on Broadway Concert Series as part of Epcot's International Festival of the Arts 2026. The festival starts next week. Since Sarah is such an expert on Broadway and musicals in general, she has a great deal of knowledge about all of the singers who will be taking the stage. Before we get started, as always, I want to ask that everybody make sure you are subscribed to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. We are moving towards our 5-year anniversary. We still routinely have more people checking out each episode of the podcast on YouTube than are subscribed to the channel. Help us take a jump in the algorithm by clicking that subscribe button. If you are subscribed, be generous when clicking the like button and leave some positive comments. Let's get things started in today's conversation. Thanks for being back on the show, Sarah.
Hey, I'm super excited to be here.
So we are getting ready for Epcot's International Festival of the Arts 2026, including the Disney on Broadway Concert Series. One of the coolest things that happens at any of these Epcot festivals, actual performers from Broadway every night playing at the American Gardens Theater right across from the U.S. Pavilion in Epcot's World Showcase. And today, since Sarah is what I would call at least a Broadway expert, the two of us are going to go through some of the performers at this year's festival and talk about what you're going to be able to see if you get a chance to visit Epcot in the next couple of months. So we are going to start right off the bat, January 16th, 18th, 19th, 22nd, 24th, 26th, and 27th from Aladdin, the Disney on Broadway show. Isabel McCullough, who is brand new, and Adam Jacobs, who I have actually seen perform at this festival before. But since you are, as we said, the expert, why don't you talk about these two performers a little bit?
Yeah, Adam Jacobs is no stranger to this series either. I actually also have seen him not at Epcot, though. I saw him on the tour as Aladdin when it came back around, which was fantastic. He was absolutely amazing. And Isabel McCalla is also outstanding, and she's been Jasmine, of course. So you have your Aladdin and your Jasmine. But she has a lot of great theater credits behind her because, I mean, she was in Aladdin multiple times throughout the run of it, like the testing of it after Seattle, because Seattle was the first. And then she was also in it at the Muni. She was in it on Broadway. She came back to it on Broadway. She also, fun fact, was in Hercules, the musical, before they moved it to start it in London. So that's pretty exciting as well. So yeah, I'm very excited for her to join Adam Jacobs on this.
And while Disney is advertising the two of these performers as being from Aladdin, that's not all they're going to perform. It's not like they're just going to perform the songs from Aladdin. They will probably do one or two songs from Aladdin because that's how they're being billed at this event. But since you mentioned Isabel was in Hercules, you know, she might do a Megara song.
Right.
They might do something from The Greatest Showman or any of the other potential Disney on Broadway shows. This is sort of Disney's way of advertising their Disney on Broadway concert series, so they do not limit it to just one show ever.
Absolutely. And they have so many shows like across the world right now that are running in different major cities that this is a great place to showcase those songs.
January 17th, 20th, 21st, 23rd, 25th, 28th, and 29th. Sierra, I'm probably going to butcher this.
Bogues
from The Little Mermaid. She is new to the Disney on Broadway concert series and somebody who is not new at all. And this guy is just incredible. You will be blown away by Michael James Scott, who I think is most
Yes.
famous for playing the genie in Aladdin. For anybody who thinks the genie in Aladdin can only be played by Robin Williams, yes,
Mhm.
Robin Williams owns that version of the genie. But I would
Yes.
almost go out on a limb and say that Michael James Scott owns the Broadway version because he is incredible.
Ooh, so I do believe, like, I agree, he is incredible, but once we get to another performer that's coming up later, I may have to disagree, but we'll see when we get there, we're not there yet. But he is absolutely phenomenal, and he's on Broadway currently as the genie. Still, like, because I believe last year when he was there, he was also on Broadway as the genie, which is fantastic, but we need to talk about Sierra Bogues because I adore her. I adore her. She was the original Ariel on Broadway. Absolutely amazing voice. Where I know her from before that is she played Christine in Phantom of the Opera, and she did the Royal Albert Hall concert, and she played it forever. She did the follow-up that I will not even talk about because was not a great show in general. She's fantastic, but she do not miss this duo if you are going, because if they're in your dates, you are just going to be absolutely blown away by both of them.
And you know you're going to get some of the songs from Aladdin, and
Mhm.
you know you're going to get a couple songs from The Little Mermaid.
Oh
Right
yeah.
there are two of the best soundtracks from the Disney
Yes.
Renaissance. So you know that you are going to get some of your favorite songs. Moving on to January 30th, February 1st, 2nd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 10th, we have Anastasia McCleskey from Tarzan. This is another brand new first year performer. And Josh Strickland from Tarzan as well. Now, I am going to say this when it comes to just the soundtracks of the movies. I'm not going to speak on the Broadway show because I have not seen the Tarzan Broadway show. I know a lot of people really love the Tarzan soundtrack. And
Oh
while
yeah,
I
Phil
am a
Collins.
huge Phil Collins fan, it's actually not one of my favorites, but I have seen performers from Tarzan at the Disney on Broadway concert series. And like I said, you don't just get those shows, you get such a nice variety. So why don't you talk about these two performers?
So, to be completely honest, I don't know a ton about either of these performers. Tarzan was a very niche show when it came out, and the music, it's Phil Collins. A lot of the acting and everything in Tarzan, it was so physical and so physically demanding on top of the beautiful music that every actor there, like, just was phenomenal. Like I said, I don't know a ton about either of these actors or the show itself besides the little bit I've seen because it did not get the love that I think that it should have.
Awesome. And one of the things I will say is it's nice in this world of social media and the internet when somebody doesn't know a whole lot about a subject to just say, "Hey, I don't know a lot about these two." And then
Yeah, yeah, these 2 that they were the 2, I believe, in the list when it came up that they were the least that I really knew about, and it was like, "Oh, interesting," but I know that show was definitely fantastic, so I'm guessing you are gonna get an absolute great performance with the 2 of them.
January 31st, February 3rd, 4th, 6th, 8th, 11th, and 12th. It is Mandy Gonzalez from, and I know how to pronounce this, but I always have a problem with it. Aida.
It's pronounced Aida, like Aida.
All right.
It's kind of
And
a
I
tricky one.
even know that, but it's just still hard for me to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And Kissy Simmons from The Lion King. I've seen her on the Disney on Broadway concert series before as well. And both of these performers are returners to the
Awesome.
Disney on Broadway concert series, which means they know the routine, they
Yep.
know the three shows a night and how to mix it up. So this should be a really, really good one.
Oh, absolutely, and Mandy Gonzalez too, she's in Aida, or was in Aida, I should say, and she also, though, is, like, one of Lin-Manuel Miranda's people because she was also in Hamilton. She came in to play one of the Schuyler sisters in Hamilton, I believe Angelica, and, she also was in the original cast of In the Heights. So if you've seen either of those movies, so she wasn't in the movie, but she was in the original cast of that. So she's fantastic. And Kissy Simmons, like she was in Lion King forever ago, like in the 90s. She was the replacement for Nala, which is amazing.
So that's great. And of course, you're going to get great songs from both of those. A lot
Absolutely.
of Elton John. Both of those were Elton John,
Yes,
right?
they were. Yep.
And we are moving on to February 13th, 15th, 16th, and 19th. Ainsley Melham from Aladdin. She is new.
Oh,
And
he.
Ashley Brown.
Ainsley is a
Oh,
guy.
see, look at that. Thank you. Yeah, see, I shouldn't presume. Now I am canceled. And Ashley
No.
Brown from Mary Poppins. So let's talk about these performers.
Yeah, Ashley Brown isn't new though, right? She's been there previously because she was the original Broadway Mary Poppins, which is fantastic and she's wonderful. Ainsley Melham is actually Australian and he played, I believe he originated the role of Aladdin in Australia. And he's been playing it forever and coming back and forth between Australia and the US to play Aladdin. And anybody who gets to see him, I'm incredibly jealous.
Yes, Ashley Brown has been performing at the Disney on Broadway concert series a number of times, mostly the
Yeah.
last few years. I have seen her perform there as well. And I want to say that this is a prime example of why, on certain topics, I'm so glad to have you and to have Maz, because that's how we avoid mistakes like me calling Ainsley Melham
You
a
wouldn't have
female.
known. You wouldn't have known. You're fine.
Now, to be fair, if I was going to talk about this on my own, I would have done the research and known that. But I know that you have such a good grasp on this topic. February 14th, Valentine's Day, the 17th, 18th, 20th, and 21st, Susan Egan from Beauty and the Beast. This is a new performer. And James Monroe Iglehart?
Eigelhart.
Iglehart, who is from Aladdin and is also a new performer. So you're getting sort of some fresh meat here for Valentine's Day. I guess, when you're new, they don't let you take off the holidays. So they're like, no, you're working Valentine's Day.
Gotta earn your stripes.
Yeah, Michael James Scott gets to spend the day with his loved
Yeah.
ones. You don't yet. You haven't earned what he's earned. So why don't you talk about these two performers?
Okay, so earlier we talked about Michael James Scott being like an absolutely phenomenal genie. James Monroe Iglehart is the OG Broadway genie. He was the original with Adam Jacobs. And he also is he was in Hamilton. He was a replacement in Hamilton. He also has done a TV show that I absolutely love, but is not kid friendly. So I'm not going to mention it here because we have lots of viewers that are younger. But he's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal performer and actor. And we all know Susan Egan is just absolutely amazing. She's Megara as well, but that's a movie. But she was the original Belle on Broadway, and yeah, you can't not love Susan Egan.
Right. And having one of the performers who was in one of the movies is such a cool thing for
Mhm.
people who are like me and might not be Broadway aficionados,
Right,
and they don't know these people from their Broadway celebrity, to have
right,
somebody come from one of the movies and be somebody who, I think a large percentage of people who are going to be at Epcot on any given day have
mhm.
seen the animated version of Hercules.
Oh,
So
absolutely, yeah.
that's a really big deal. And then on February 22nd and 23rd, they're sort of doing a little bit of an all-star show here with Ashley Brown from Mary Poppins, Ainsley Melham from Aladdin, who is totally a dude, Susan Egan from Beauty and the Beast, and James Monroe Iglehart
Yep.
from Aladdin. So you're getting all of those performers one of those days. So that is pretty cool as well. So as we look at the overall cast for the Disney on Broadway concert series this year. How do you think they did in putting together this lineup?
I think this year has one of the best lineups that I have seen. Like, they've had some amazing lineups in the past, but I believe that this year is definitely one of their top tier lineups that they've had, and I love they're doing the 2 nights of the 4 people versus just duos the whole time. So, though you can't really top the Newsies reunion. Was that last year they did the Newsies reunion? Because that was, oh, that was good. There were so many original cast dancers from Newsies that showed up, and it was just like, ah. But yeah, this year is going to be awesome. And one thing that's kind of cool is Disney Plus is going to be releasing the live West End production of Aladdin, and a bunch of the people that you're seeing, so Isabel McCalla, Ainsley, they are in that as Aladdin and Jasmine. So you're getting to see, plus I believe James Monroe Iglehart, a few others are going to be making cameos in that as well. So you kind of get to see these cool actors before this comes out.
So, talking about that, what do you think about, as a Broadway fan, as a fan of
Yeah.
musicals, when you watch a version on Disney Plus? Like, I think we can give the example of Hamilton because
Yeah.
that has been on Disney Plus for a while, and I think that everybody who has wanted to see it has gotten the chance to see it. So, how do you view experiencing the Broadway phenomenon on Disney Plus versus being there in person? Are you losing a lot in translation, or because you're always getting the A cast, if you will,
Right.
the
Right.
premier cast when they're filming these things? Do you think that it is a nice entry into the world of
Yeah.
Broadway?
So I think, I mean, being there in person is always huge and amazing, and it's a fantastic experience. But having a pro shot of a Broadway show, it's making it accessible to everyone because Broadway shows are expensive. They're very expensive. If you do not live in New York City, you have to fly there. You have to get a hotel. You have to buy this seat that could cost you hundreds of dollars to see these people. And like Hamilton, like Newsies, like Aladdin that's going to be coming out as a pro shot, you get to experience that with these same actors. Like Hamilton too was like a true gem because you got the original Broadway cast, like minus one person who was in the ensemble. But it's like you got the original cast and you got to see that. And that's absolutely amazing to be able to let everyone finally experience theater without having to go into debt over seeing theater.
Yeah, I know that if any of you follow our other co-host Maz on Instagram, you might think, "Oh, Broadway is really cheap," because she'll go to like 6 showings of the same show in a weekend.
Right.
But it is actually very, very expensive. This
It
podcast
is.
just pays remarkably well. So,
It paid for me to move across the country. Just kidding. No,
right.
it didn't.
Um, it has not paid us a dime. But
No,
anyway,
but we love
um,
it.
you can see that Broadway is something that's expensive, which is one of the
It
reasons
is,
that
yeah.
this Disney on Broadway concert series is such an incredible thing. A day ticket to Epcot in January or February is not going to be that expensive. It's going to be
Mhm.
around $100, maybe upwards of like $125, $130 to go to Epcot for the day. And you are getting 3 possible performances from
Yep.
these Broadway performers who you would not get to see on Broadway for $130, probably.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, if you're going to pay that too, you're going to be sitting up in the nosebleeds where you may not be able to see. You may have an obstructed view. And to get to see these actors live, even if they're not in the show specifically, I mean, I've been so blessed to be able to see when I lived in Seattle, I got to see shows like Aladdin and all of these things where the actors came back. Like Disney, if you're listening for next year, you need to bring Don Daryl Rivera to this concert series. I know he's not a prince or anything, but he has played Iago on Broadway since Seattle. He started in Seattle as Iago, and he is still with the show, and I am a huge stan for that guy. So bring him. But getting to see these actors that you love, it's just you can't describe it. If you really love these actors, like if I saw Sierra Boggess, I may die. I may die. I love her so much. But yeah, it's for people who can't travel constantly to go see Broadway shows or to see these shows or even be able to afford them in their own cities when they tour through. They're making it accessible, and it's even better if you're already there on your vacation and bam, you can experience this.
And there are different ways to make sure that you get the best experience. There's the Disney on Broadway dining package.
Oh,
And
nice.
if you would get one of the dining packages, they would reserve, I think it's like the first 3 or 4 rows, and they wouldn't let other guests sit in them until like
Nice.
2 minutes before the show starts. They might start letting people fill in those spots. But that is a way to avoid the long lines that can sometimes build up for this, because anybody who's been to the Eat to the Beat concert series for Food and Wine, especially if
Mm.
there's somebody like Boys to Men or the Beach Boys, you might wait in line through one of their performances because they've filled up the theater, and then you have to go to the next performance. And all of that is time that you are not in Epcot. You are not
Yep.
experiencing attractions at Epcot. So keep in mind things like the Disney on Broadway dining package. I will say this, however, as somebody who went to Epcot a lot when I lived in Florida and experienced the Festival of the Arts, which was my favorite festival when I was living in Florida, most weekdays I could show up about 15, 20 minutes before the performance and get to see that performance. There were many times that I would see the 5:30 performance and decide I wanted to come back for the third performance, and I was able to like run and do Living with the Land or Spaceship Earth and then run back and see that final performance of the day. So you can have times where you do just walk up a couple minutes before and get to see these performers. But if there is somebody like Susan Egan or any of
Mhm.
these more popular performers, Michael James Scott, any of them that you know are going to bring a huge crowd, or specifically if it is a weekend, I would suggest getting there well in advance or spending the extra money doing the Disney on Broadway dining package and making sure that you get to experience it. There's one other thing that I did want to mention before we wrap up this episode, and this is something they are building on. They did it in the 2025 version of the Festival of the Arts. They're doing it again in 2026, or at least something very similar. I don't remember if it had the exact same name. Once Upon a Stage, The Magic of Disney on Broadway. And this is going to feature some of the artistry from the stage productions of The Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and a whole lot more. This is going to be some of the costumes, some of the set pieces, and this can be really, really cool to experience, especially when we're talking about some of these costumes from The Lion King
Oh,
that
yeah.
are both costumes and almost like little mini machines that they have
Yeah,
to
all the
operate.
puppetry, yeah.
So if you get a chance to see some of these things, maybe you have a kid who's interested in Broadway, but they're not sure, if they're a little shy and they don't know if they want to be a performer. You can show kids that there's other ways to be a part of these productions, that maybe they're crafty, and not crafty like tricky, but
Yeah.
crafty like they like to engage in crafts. And you can show them like there are
Mhm.
people who build these set pieces and
Oh,
there are
yeah.
people who build these costumes and put them together. So to be a part of the Broadway experience, you don't just have to have been born with this voice. You can
Right.
find other ways into the profession, and to just show them, even so, like, look at everything that goes behind the scenes
Yep.
when you're putting on something like this. And it also is probably a good way for Disney to justify those $200 Broadway tickets, because they're like, well, look at all the people we have to pay.
Well, no, that's true, and you know what's funny as you say that, as my dad always says, so my sister, I probably talked about this before, my sister went to school for musical theater. She is a working actress, also a teacher, absolutely amazing, and my dad is not a huge theater person, but he'd go, and he always said is for the kids who either are not comfortable acting or aren't at that caliber that the world feels they need to be at, actors on stage are just mimes in the dark without their tech crew and their sets and all that. So remember that. If you do something backstage, you are just as important as that person up there singing and doing all the other things. They're just mimes in the dark otherwise. Thank you, Dad.
That is a great way to look at things. You always have to look at, well, even when we just talk about the theme parks in general and we talk about the importance of the cast
Yeah.
members, who, if you don't sit back and actually look for them, you might be missing the magic that they are creating for you. Do you have any final thoughts on the Disney on Broadway concert series, Epcot's International Festival of the Arts? Anything particular that you want to share before we wrap up things?
Um, no, I just think if you're gonna go or you're going or planning on going, I definitely recommend you go check out any of these performers. Doesn't matter who you see because they're gonna be phenomenal no matter who they are. Um, but yeah, just and be patient. Just be patient. You know, there's gonna be a lot of people. It's gonna be fun. Everybody's gonna have a great time. All these actors are gonna make sure you have a great time. So, and like Rick said, go check out if they have that exhibit, go check it out because even if you're not a theater person, the craft behind it is just mind blowing. So go and have a good time because I will not be there.
And I'm going to say this too, and I'm not 100% sure how the timing lines up on a daily basis, but let's say you are rope dropping to the final fireworks at the end of the night at Epcot for the day. Around 3:30ish, maybe 3 o'clock ish, they're gonna have the final performance for the day from the Voices of Liberty at the American Adventure Pavilion. And then from the Voices of Liberty, you can sort of make your way into one of the 4 o'clock or 4:30 performances of the American Adventure show, and then you can get out of there and get in line for the 5:30 showing of the Disney on Broadway concert series. Check with the app and make sure these times are lining up. But if you're doing a big day at Epcot where you are rope dropping Guardians of the Galaxy or Test Track and you're going until the end of the fireworks, this is a nice way in the middle of the day to do three very relaxing things that are right by each other, right in a
Absolutely.
row, and sort of catch your second wind. You can get some items from the food booths. Maybe you have a
Mhm.
party of three, get one person to go to one of the food booths,
Yep.
grab a couple of items. You can sit there while you're waiting for the show to start and have one of the Festival of the Arts food items. This is a great way, even if you're not sold, you're like, oh, Broadway is for the
Yeah.
artsy kids, right? You're going to get some of the Disney songs that you love. You're going to get a nice, relaxing time off of your feet. Now, if you decide to get up on your feet and do a
Well,
little dancing or, a little audience participation, that's been known to happen as well. But this is something that I do recommend seeing because I am not somebody who has ever been to a Broadway show. I've been to maybe one or two musicals in my life, and it's not something I seek out on a regular basis, but it's one of the things that I love about Disney is these theme parks will give you a chance to sample something and see if you want to go up to the buffet later. And that is what the Disney on Broadway concert series does so well. And Epcot is the greatest theme park at Walt
Yes.
Disney World. I don't care
Yes,
what
it
Maz
is.
says about Animal Kingdom. And this is a
2
great
against 1,
way.
sorry, Maz.
This is a great way to spend a day at a theme park and sort of take a nice break. So Sarah says, man, it is always so good to have you on the show. I know that, like you said, you recently had a move, so it's been a little harder to get you on the show recently, but we've had some luck. And the last couple months, we've had you
Yes.
on a lot, and that is so great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
This has been episode 258 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. We will be back with another brand new episode next week. I'll be flying solo on the show as I continue my series on the tenure of former Disney chairman and CEO Michael Eisner, and the second part of our conversation about the Disney Renaissance, which took place under Eisner's time in charge of the company. When we left things off in December, Beauty and the Beast had become a cultural and box office mega success, and Disney was looking to keep the momentum. They ended up securing one of the most beloved stand-up comedians in history to add his voice to another animated classic that would absolutely alter the way animated movies were made up to the present day. That will be next Thursday on Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Until then, have a great week.